We are rolling. Welcome in. It's ACC Baseball Etc, a new edition. It's been a while. I know. I'm Danny Graves. Or no, I'm not Danny Graves. I was reading your name. I'm Daron Vaught. Danny Graves is on the other screen if you're watching on YouTube. He is the other voice you hear laughing at my dismay now because I guess it's been a while since we've done one of these. I got to get reconfigured. I'm Danny.
You already forgot the open. You forgot our names. It's all right. I mean, we'll get it.
Well, we do have a lot to catch up on, including remembering each other's names. We've got a fun announcement that we'll get out of the way early here on this new episode. Again, it's ACC Baseball Etc. We are presented by Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. It's the easy-to-use and affordable technology that makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics, all the features used at the highest level. You can visit pitchlogic.com for more information. Our friend Larry Sorensen of Wake Forest Sports Network, he does color commentary for their football games as well as their baseball games. He's a team member over at Pitch Logic, so our thanks to him for their help in his help in getting them set up with that partnership. We're really, really excited about it. Speaking of partnerships we're excited about, you probably already know. If you're watching, you see the logo in one of the corners here. If you are listening, I tried to sneak in some subtle hints over the past week or so once we knew this was happening and we were going to launch this way. So we updated the logo on all of our podcasting platforms. So if you're listening that way and you didn't see it, take a look down at your phone screen or whatever and notice the logo at the top of our podcast logo now. We're now part of the D1Baseball Podcast Network. We are effectively members of the D1Baseball.com team. Super exciting stuff. Thanks to Kendall Rogers, Aaron Fitt, the whole crew. Mike Rooney's been a guest on this show before. We're really, really pumped to be on board with them. Should be a lot of fun, and it should, Danny, sort of expand what we're able to do with this show, which is exciting.
Very exciting. Aaron Fitt has actually been a guest too, filling in for me at was the ACC tournament last year, right? He came on and but yeah, great guys there. It's a great website. Of course, follow college baseball. This is the site that you need to be on to know what's going down in college baseball. So excited, man. This is so awesome. We're going to have a whole bunch of new viewers, new listeners.
I mean, that's the hope, right? So in case you're just joining us and maybe you're not as familiar with us, I am Daron Vaught. I do a lot of play-by-play around the ACC for the ESPN digital platforms. Basically, come springtime, I'm at a different venue every weekend calling college baseball. About 90% of it is ACC baseball. Over the summers, I do Team USA's games with their collegiate national team as well. And I'm based in North Carolina. Danny, you probably for sure know of, a two-time Hall of Famer as of this past summer, both of Miami's program's Hall of Fame and the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. Now a Miami graduate as of this summer as well.
Yes. There's my diploma. I need to find a place to put it. It's in a frame and everything. I just don't know where to put it yet.
I think it looks good there. So you've got proof on the degree. Yeah. You sent me your Hall of Fame bobblehead.
Yep.
In the mail.
I see it.
It's in my background here. So that's the proof that you're a bona fide Reds Hall of Famer now.
Nice.
We're covering all our bases here. That's right. Great stuff. Yeah. So with that being said, since we last did one of these, we got a lot of catching up to do. I mean, a lot has happened in addition to the conclusion of the college baseball season. You were in Omaha and got to be part of that and see a bunch of that. We've had this expansion and conference realignment stuff has affected the ACC and will ultimately at some point affect ACC baseball. Cal and Stanford will be members of the conference not this coming season, but the following season. It's significant, Danny. I mean, obviously we can have the entire discourse of, okay, it's they're West Coast teams playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference. How's it going to work? We can have that conversation. But these are two pretty good baseball programs, especially Stanford, who has played in each of the last 3 College World Series. That's what we're adding to the ACC. I mean, that's a huge get for the conference just from a baseball standpoint. Says your mic's not connected. You muted on us. Did you knock it loose?
I probably knocked it loose. There you go. I mean,
nice
technology, our new pitch logic, D1 baseball, all the stuff that's happening great, and I can't even control it over here. Yeah, I think that the point that you made about traveling, that's the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, to everybody. Like, you don't want to have conference games that are in the West Coast, and then you got to go to the East Coast. But at the same time, when you can add quality teams to your conference like that, to an already great conference, then that just makes your conference even better. And Stanford, like you said, the last 3 College World Series they've been to, and they showed very well. I think this is just a huge bonus for the ACC. Other teams are going to have to step it up now. You got a couple more tough teams coming in, but that's part of the game, right? You go out there and you want to play against the best, and you're bringing somebody from the West Coast that has been probably one of the best for a while now.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because there's been a lot of moving, and we'll talk transfers specific to the ACC here in a bit. But Stanford, in particular, had one of the best players in the country in Braden Montgomery, and he has since transferred to Texas A&M. So it does sort of beg the question, as this conference chaos was happening before Stanford and Cal both became members of the ACC, and they were 2 of the 4 left in what was the Pac-12, how much roster upheaval was there in that case? And I think I'd be interested to get your perspective on this too, Danny, just as a former player. How appealing or unappealing is playing in one of those programs now, knowing that you're going to have to likely endure a lot more travel than you used to as part of that playing schedule?
Well, I think it depends on who you are. Obviously, there's a lot of Stanford alum. I know a lot of people go to Stanford because their family went to Stanford, or players have gone there because family members have gone there, and it's a great program. It's a great school. Like, forget the baseball. It's one of the best schools in the country. Right. So as far as though making a decision on not going there because you have to travel, I think that should be in the back of your mind. As a parent, you should tell your kids, it shouldn't matter where you travel. If you make it to the big leagues, you're traveling all over the country. It doesn't matter, if you're in the American League or the National League, you're going to have to travel to play. So now, if you're going to make a decision on going to, let's just throw out Wake Forest, for example, Wake Forest or Stanford, you can go to either one. But you don't want to make the decision on, okay, I live here and I don't want to go there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go where it's going to be a best fit for you. If you're going to be able to join the Wake Forest rotation or be in the starting lineup early, but at Stanford, you're going to have to sit, or vice versa. Do what's best for you, not just because of travel. Like, don't make a decision because of travel. That's what I would say as a parent. Traveling is not that big of a deal. It's a lot, but it's part of being a baseball player, right? You're with Team USA. It's part of going places to play.
Yeah, I don't think it would be like the primary decision maker or deal breaker for anybody. I do wonder if that is going to be in the back of somebody's minds. I met, for instance, over the summer with USA Baseball. My role there had me at most of the events that they covered. I had broadcast interns for the very first time this summer.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Earlier. So it was less of me calling games and more of me teaching others how to do that.
Yeah.
But at some of the lower age levels, and this is in Cary, North Carolina, the USA Baseball National Training Complex.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of regionally, you've got people coming, families bringing their kids from all over the country because this is one of the premier places to play and showcase your talent. Mm-hmm. So I've met a couple of families, in fact, from the Southwest region, one of our big regionally based events called the National Team Identification Series Champions Cup. Mm-hmm. And it spans age levels, right? So there's a 13U, there's a 12U, there's a 16U, there's a 17U. When you get teams from the Southwest region, oftentimes kids from California, Stanford is their dream school.
Yeah.
So this became a conversation over the summer, and it's, okay, so-and-so is 14 years old. Who knows if they're actually going to play at Stanford or what,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a goal. That's something that they are striving toward at this point. And in talking to them, I did notice the ACC angle doesn't change anything for them at this point, right? Like they love Stanford baseball. They want to play Stanford baseball.
Yeah.
In fact, they might have been a little bit more excited to occasionally travel over to this area because the event was happening in North Carolina. They're like, hey, it's kind of nice here.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've got these schools right nearby the complex, and in some cases teams will go to work out at different schools in the area while they're here. So, for the 14-year-old aspiring to go to Stanford, it doesn't really change things.
Right. Yet.
As you start to work in other variables, NIL is also a part of this, right?
Yeah.
If you're a big time scholarship player and that's going to be an option for you at other schools, maybe all else is equal at, say, Stanford and Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And something that could tip the scales would be
NIL will certainly tip the scales.
Yes, well, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm curious though if in the instance that everything else NIL included is even, what a prospective player would think about Stanford travel in the ACC versus not having that kind of burden.
That's tough. Yeah. I mean, that's a good, I guess, question to have, but I'm glad that I don't have to make that decision. And I'm glad that I don't have a kid to make that decision right now. But yeah, it would be tough. There's so many variables, and, I think at the end of the day, if your dream is to go to Stanford, or if your dream is to go to Cal, you're going to find a way to go there, right? Like you're not going to let too many other things deter your decision. If that's your dream, especially like 13 or 14-year-old, that's what they want to do. That's probably what they're going to try to do. Now, if you just got to hope that you're good enough and you get it, offered something. If not, then you got to go somewhere else, obviously. But I don't know, man. There's so many different things you could talk about. You know what? Here's my ADHD coming in. Here's what's going to be good about it, though. Possibly, and I know like a lot of the ACC schools do recruit in California, but now that you have two teams from California that are going to be in your conference, are there going to be more recruiting trips out to the West Coast? Not necessarily to steal the California players, but now you know that there's a bunch of players that do want to stay over there. But hey, you got two teams coming in our conference. So that why don't we go and try to get some of their best players so that they can't have them to beat us? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Well, and there's an element of exposure out there where, I mean, when it comes to anything ACC, you look at other sports, it's like, oh, we're going to play the men's basketball tournament in Brooklyn because of footprint right?
Yeah.
We want to expand our geographic footprint.
Yeah.
There's a practical footprint element to what's happening with Stanford and Cal joining the conference. So, say this hypothetical kid who's 14 years old who wants to play at either Cal or Stanford. That's their dream. But now from ages 15 through 18, they're going to be dialed into ACC baseball because of it.
Right.
And maybe they watch what Eric Bakich is doing at Clemson, and something tickles their fancy about the Tigers program. And all of the sudden, maybe, they're sort of on the fringe of being recruited and liked enough by a Cal or a Stanford.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I still am a fan of this conference. I'm an appreciator of this conference. There are other really good programs in the ACC. I could just as easily see myself going across the country and going to one of these teams.
Yeah.
And then occasionally having a game over here so that, my friends and family can come watch. That's a perk.
Yeah.
Just as much as it's a deterrent for a California kid. I think that's a little bit of a perk.
Well, you know what else is a perk? Every ACC game is on either linear network or ACC. What is it? Plus ACC
Network Extra. NX.
That's okay. ACC Network Extra. Like there's the games are always on. I don't know what the Pac-10, Pac-12, whatever they're called now. I don't know what they have. I don't think they have a network like the ACC does.
Well, I mean, and even if the Pac-12 network is / was the thing, but even if not, Stanford and Cal had kind of been cornered in a way that they were in a conference that only officially had 4 members going forward. So would there be a network?
Exactly.
All, right. They were going to have to move either way.
Right.
So,
right.
But
also the people over the kids over there, obviously, and I hate to always talk about Wake Forest, but I have to because their pitching lab. If I have a kid that's a pitcher and you have a chance to have your kid go to this pitching lab and have every part of his body mechanically figured out to how he could be the best that he could be, why wouldn't I want to try that? Why wouldn't I venture into that side of the country to make my child better? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know of any other school that does that.
Not in the same way.
Right. That's what I mean.
It's going to become more of a priority for schools to develop something similar. And you're right. It should, because it's turned Wake Forest. It's been part of what has turned Wake Forest into the class of college baseball. Yeah. So I think that's a really good point as well. And I got a good look at it over the summer, because I think maybe you would be in tune with this to a certain degree because you were a member of Team USA as a collegian and you did play travel ball and those sorts of things. But that is a wild world now, man. The degree to which, even for the 14-year-olds, the 15-year-olds, families will derail makes it sound bad, but they will derail their summers.
Yeah.
To go with their players, their children.
Yeah.
To all these club team tournaments and showcases and that sort of thing. You see that for an entire summer, and you see the same parents multiple weekends out of the same summer in Cary, and it's like they're coming from all over the country, and it makes you realize that the players are sort of conditioned to be nonchalant about the travel piece now. So I think you're right in that it's not going to be as big of a deal.
No, it's kind of part of it, right? It's part of, as far as travel ball, the travel that I played in high school. Well, all through Little League, I only played Little League, but through high school, we played Legion ball. So that was our summer. And if you were good enough, you did get to travel. One of the years we went to North Carolina, we won the state tournament in Florida, and then we got to play in North Carolina. And I feel like it was Cary, North Carolina. It might not have been, but it sounds familiar. But then, getting to college and playing like a lot of kids go to the Cape or go to some summer league, and I played with Team USA. We were in Millington, Tennessee back then, but the parents would come every weekend that we were in Tennessee. Every weekend that we were home, they would come, and that was part of it. Parents do like take summers to take their kids to these games and these tournaments. Some of the travel ball is a little extreme, obviously, but as far as when you get to college, that's part of being a college baseball player. I think, like, even if you're, for example, if you're only in the ACC, like the way they're set up now, you still have to travel. Like, you still got to go down to Miami. You still got to go up to Boston College. It's still a little bit of traveling. It's not a different time zone, but it's traveling.
You just flip it, right? Rather than vertical travel, it's just going to be horizontal travel.
Yeah. And come regional time, a lot of teams that know they're not hosting, they can't wait to see where they have to go. They don't want to stay around. They want to go somewhere to play in the regionals.
Yeah. Yeah. And for what it's worth, the Stanford Regional has hosted many ACC teams over the years. So I think it's probably a trip that a lot of coaches, we have had some turnover, which we're going to talk about, but I think a lot of coaches in the conference I'd have to look it up, but I would assume a lot of them have even done that trip before. So in terms of approaching it from an ops perspective, logistically, like, yeah, sure. They're used to having to make something like that happen, or at the very least, I mean, a trip to Texas is not a walk in the park for a team going to a regional from North Carolina, or maybe it's Miami making the trip or something like that. So it feels at this point like it's all just part of it. So I'm excited. I think I know people have their issues with the conference adding those two teams and SMU, who does not have baseball, but apparently a quick Google search told me they got a really good club baseball team. I don't know if it's in the cards for them to bump it up to a varsity level at some point, but
well, Syracuse doesn't have a team either. They have a club team.
Right. So, maybe that's in the cards. We can add,
but they're in the ACC and everything else, right?
Yeah, correct. So SMU, ACC full member, they don't have baseball, but we're adding Cal and Stanford. I know people have their various issues about it. You can say what you want about the bigger picture of college athletics and how it impacts that. From a baseball specific perspective, I kind of love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. There's always going to be people that don't like the decisions that are made, especially when the NCAA is all involved in so many different things that, like, it's almost like you just want to be mad because they decided this is the way it's going to be. But at the end of the day, you're getting, and no disrespect to Cal, but you're getting a powerhouse, a perennial powerhouse school. Like, back in the 90s, growing up, like, Stanford was one of the teams that even down in Florida, like, people wanted to go to because of their baseball program, and now you're bringing them to the ACC conference, to an already, like, dominating conference. Man, that's so legit. Like, how can you not like it?
Yeah. I also, this is an aside in terms of, like, the serious conversation. Gravy, I love the ACC legend meme abilities that we have with this. Like, we get to call Mike Musina, former Stanford great, an ACC legend. Now we get to call Jeff Kent, who played at Cal, we get to call him an ACC legend.
And Jeff Kent doesn't live far from me, so I mean, maybe we can get him on the show. We can get more people on the show now that they're going to be former, like.
With that being said, I think people would be interested to know Jeff Kent's thoughts on the Bears playing in the ACC now. Yeah. Right. I mean,
well, Jeffrey Hammonds is a good friend of mine, and he was a Stanford superstar.
Yep.
So
no, it's all worthwhile. And obviously they're not going to be playing in the conference this year, but that's going to be on our radar. So, maybe we got nothing else going on. We can give Jeff Kent a yell and be like, hey, so Atlantic Coast Conference now, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, we could always reach out to Aaron Rodgers too. I mean, unfortunately he's not doing anything, but he can tell us about the ACC, what he thinks about Cal. I mean, It sucks that he went down. I hate that for him.
Yeah,
but
it's just not as it was set up to be a really, really fun season in the NFL because of that. But
yeah.
I'll get to work on that as the primary guest booker. I'll get on that. I'll see what I can do about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm gonna whatever I need to do. If I need to, be a part-time guest getter, like you're just really good at convincing people to come on. Like if I ask them, sometimes they might think I'm just kidding or like.
Well, I mean, I have there's actual experience with it, right?
Yeah.
Shows and that sort of thing. Whereas you've just got connections because you played with the dudes, and for the show of our purposes, we want to talk to the dudes. I don't know as many of the dudes because I'm not one of the dudes. You're one of the dudes. So the dudes fraternize, and that's how the magic happens. So
yeah.
I will let you know when your services are required there. That's good.
Yes, for sure. But I do like how you get it going for us. So thank you.
Well, so some more since we've been gone topics.
Yeah.
Coaching changes. Not a lot of them, but man, was it dramatic. We thought for a little while that Chris Pollard was going to jump from Duke to take the Miami job. Then he doesn't and posts on Twitter or X. That's another change since the last time we did one of these. I'm still going to call it Twitter. It's just muscle memory at this point.
Yeah.
But then he posts there the GIF of did you realize it was the Godfather, the WWE superstar?
No, I see. I still
the door down. He said we've got doors to kick down, and the GIF that he posted was former WWE superstar. I think he's a Hall of Famer in the WWE.
See, I got to look for this now. I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I can't believe you didn't tell me about it.
It was Pollard's sort of announcing that there was no news, right? As the rumor mill had been churning, and it seemed like he might take the Miami job. He said, "We've still got some doors to knock down. I'm not going anywhere." And he posted again. It's an animation of former WWE superstar Godfather literally kicking a door down.
Nice.
Which I loved. I have no idea. We'll have to ask him next time he's on.
Yeah.
Was that a deliberate reference by Chris? Is he a wrestling fan? He doesn't strike me as the type.
Yeah. I don't even know who the Godfather is. Is that somebody new?
No, he was, all right, I'm going to out myself as a big pro wrestling fan now.
But I was the biggest pro wrestling fan. We had guys on the team. We would dress up as NWO and all that.
Okay. So Godfather was same era, what's referred to as the Attitude Era.
Okay.
And probably not PC. I don't know that you could get away with a gimmick like that now. Essentially, he was a pimp. He was supposed to be. So he had the bright.
Okay. Yes.
He carried around a staff, and some of his catchphrases were along those lines.
Yeah, that was his name. I didn't realize that was his name.
Godfather. He was the Godfather. Yeah,
I'm looking at it right now. I'm checking it out right now. Okay, nice.
All right, so so to get it back on track here.
Back on track.
Yeah. By the way, in case you're new to the show, that's just a thing that happens. I don't know.
That's why it's etc.
That's the etc. Right? You can complain about it. It's not going to get you anywhere. We, by virtue of the title of this show, reserved the right a long time ago to break away occasionally. So
yeah.
So it's going to happen. But Pollard, we thought might be the Miami coach. He opts to go back to Duke. That came with the promise from administration there to devote more resources to the Duke program, including renovating Jack Coombs Field, their home park, because over the past several years, remember, they have played the majority of their home games at Durham Bulls Athletic Park.
Yeah.
That relationship, as far as I know, is ending as of this coming season.
Really?
Therefore, I think all Duke home games are going to be played on campus. So there, some renovations, frankly, for that to happen, just needed to occur. So
yeah, because it probably could have cost them a host as a regional host. I mean, they had a team that was so legit last year that, you know, there was talks of them hosting. They put in a bid, but to host it, you can't host it there. You can't host a regional at their home park.
Yeah. So my understanding is that Pollard's agreement to stay in the job, right? I mean, it sounds weird because it's not news. Nothing happened, but something did behind the scenes. It came with promises of renovating Jack Coombs, which will be cool because honestly, most of the time the team plays better there because that's where they practice. Go figure. It's an artificial surf as opposed to the natural grass surface of DBAP. So I think they just are more used to it. In addition to most Duke teams sort of take a bit to come around and find their stride. So they always seem to get better as the season goes on. And as the Bulls, the AAA affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays, start to play their games at home, it limits the scheduling possibilities as the season goes on for Duke. Anyways.
Well, they got a Jumbotron at their practice field. It's built to play games. So why not renovate and play games there?
Again, I think that's the plan.
Good.
So
good.
That's cool. That's exciting, right?
Yeah.
I do games on a fill-in basis for the Durham Bulls. I love Durham Bulls Athletic Park. It's one of my favorite places on planet Earth, probably, and that's not an exaggeration. I'm so zen when I'm there. It's right. Everything is right in the world when I'm at DBAP. But it is better intrinsically for ACC programs if they can have that kind of game day environment on campus. And if it's, if this meant that if Pollard being convinced to stay means that they're going to ramp up what they do on campus for Duke home baseball games, then cool. I'm excited to see it. Right.
Yeah.
That can only be a good thing.
Right.
So that's a program that keeping Pollard is a win, right? I keep saying nothing happened, but something did, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge win for the Blue Devils.
So did he even go for an interview? Do you know?
I believe he did.
Yeah.
I don't have any of this stuff confirmed. It's just kind of like, murmuring and you talk to people.
Reports say that he did.
Reports say that he did.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it at that. I think my gauge on it is that it got kind of close.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, Pollard's a North Carolina guy.
Well,
I think it would have been a weird fit.
Totally.
You could never fault any program for hiring Chris Pollard with the job that he's done at Duke.
Yeah.
But it would have been a weird fit. I think he's kind of in a way right where he needs to be.
Yeah. Well, he's a Duke lifer. Like that's the kind of coach that you see him as. Like it's hard to see him in another uniform, like leading another team. So I think it's great that they kept him, whatever the stipulations were for him to stay.
Yeah.
I mean, they need him there.
I mean, it's huge. He's one of the best coaches in the country. That's not an exaggeration. And I think this past season was a huge indicator.
Yeah.
So he doesn't go to Miami, and it gives our guy JD Arteaga the chance to step into that role, longtime assistant with the Hurricanes. Somebody well, I got to know through you a little bit better this past season. Gino DeMaria, former teammate of yours, just sort of was it out of the blue? I think that's a fair description, right? Out of the blue, decided he wasn't going to coach anymore at Miami. I think it took a lot of people by surprise. And they just promote from within, and it turns into a really good opportunity for JD.
Yeah, so it definitely was kind of out of the blue. I don't think anybody expected it. And I know Gino pretty well, and he's actually the one who helped me get back into school to get my degree. He was the one that convinced me to do it. So I owe a lot to Gino. And, talking to him at the ACC tournament, it's like you did not get any vibes that he was done and ready to go home. Obviously, nobody knows what's behind closed doors or what his. I know he's a big time family man for sure. I know that, but maybe he wanted to spend more time at home with his girls. He's got all girls at home. Whatever the reason is, I didn't see it coming. And what he did for that program, because they've struggled for a while, and he continued to go out there and try to get these kids to be the best that they could be. And they got so close, and they just never could get over that hump come tournament time. But you hate to see a guy like that go, because he's done so much for the university and raised a ton of money. I know his family has put in a ton of money to help build stuff, not just for the program, but for that school. Unfortunately, he left for whatever reason, and I never heard the exact reason. But you bring in a guy that's been part of this program. JD was a teammate of mine too. My last year, my junior year, he was a freshman, and he was our best starter, clearly our best starter as a freshman, and he's been in this program ever since. Well, I take that back. He took a little few year hiatus when he was in pro ball. So once he finished pro ball, he went back to Miami and was like instantly the pitching coach, and has been there ever since. So to me, although there's other capable names out there, I know we just talked about Chris Pollard. I know Troy Tulowitzki was another guy that interviewed for this job.
Yeah.
I know that he could be a big addition to that program. Rob Cooper, who from Penn State came from Miami, was at Miami as a player / coach. He's now an assistant coach under JD, but there's so many other names that could have been, but I think JD was the perfect fit because nobody knows the program better than JD, in my opinion. He's been there through everything. He's been there through multiple head coaches. Well, actually only two, right? There's only been Jim Morris and Gino, but he knows this program. And if you want like the transition to go well, I think JD was the only guy that you could bring in to help this transition into a new era. It's not an easy thing to get a new head coach at any school, but with Miami, for example, my freshman year, I played under Ron Frazier. It was his last year. So my sophomore year, they hired Brad Kelly, who was the pitching coach. Well, he kind of tried to change things around and didn't want to go the same route as the Ron Frazier era. Like he wanted, like the transition, it was like tried to make it too quick. It didn't just let it happen. Well, he lasted a year. Jim Morris comes in my junior year, and he transitions as, okay, we're just going to play the game. This is y'all's team. Let's just go out there and, I'll write the lineups and I'll coach you, but this is your team. You guys do what you need to do. And we were number one team in the nation the whole year. And of course we didn't win it, but, and then he became a legendary coach at Miami. So what I'm getting to is JD's that guy that is going to transition this team into the new JD era without upsetting people, upsetting the boosters, upsetting the athletic department. It's going to be, I think this is the only guy that you could have hired to make this an easy transition.
I like that. And we'll move on from this particular topic. But I just sort of want to bookend it with to everything that you just said. I like that Miami, as big of a baseball program as they are, and as seriously as they could and should take themselves, I like that they have this tendency to keep it in the family.
Yeah.
It's because that's a big program, and you can interview some big fish.
Mm-hmm.
But more often than not, as few coaching changes as they've had in recent memory, they sort of want to stick to what's worked. And in most cases, it's promoting an assistant. It's keeping it within the Hurricane family. That's special to me. That's what makes it Miami. That's what makes it Miami baseball.
Well, he grew up in Miami. He went to Miami Westminster Christian, and another big factor is he's bilingual, and that is definitely an advantage down there.
Yeah. No, I think that's 100% right. again, it's a good move by them, good move by Duke to keep a hold of Pollard. One other coaching change, and man, did I hate to see it. Hated to see it.
Yeah.
Mike Gambino.
Yeah.
From BC, where you mentioned JD as being a Miami guy, Gambino is a Boston guy, a BC guy.
Yep.
That just had done a tremendous job at Boston College. Gets an opportunity to go to Penn State and be a head coach there. To be clear, I'm stoked for him. I saw him over the summer. He worked with one of our national teams. God, why can't I remember? I mean, there's so many. Every week we had a different trial for a national team there. I'm having a hard time remembering which team specifically Gambino was helping with, but I saw him and, in typical Mike Gambino fashion, he just like grabs me, brings it in for the real thing. My first comment to him was, wait, we started letting Big Ten coaches in here now. So then, awesome. It just turned into a conversation where this was kind of late in the summer too, maybe a month or two after it had been announced that he was going to be the Penn State coach. And he was telling me about the drama. He was trying to get a house in Boston sold. He was trying to get a house in Pennsylvania bought, and it still was not settled at all. Right. So he's very excited for the opportunity. I'm excited for him. As I know you are, he's kind of a favorite of ours over last season and the multiple seasons that we've both covered the league. But, it's one of those, we'll see him down the road.
Yeah, we sure will. And like, I texted him afterwards and I said, man, I'm so heartbroken, but I'm so excited for you too. Like, it's sad that we're not going to be seeing him or talking about him on a weekly basis. But I mean, I think wherever he goes, he's going to build a program and excel. I mean, that's just who he is. Players are going to love him.
And BC, in his stead, they have hired a guy who seems to be another builder, right? Todd Interdonato from Wofford did a tremendous job with that program over the past several years. I'm excited for him to have that opportunity in the ACC. Excited to get to know him a little bit better too. I mean, obviously in one case, we know JD already. Yeah. Todd will be the only instance of a coach that we really got to get to know this year. So I'm looking forward to, I'm sure we'll have him on it at some point to sort of allow him to introduce himself to the fan base and looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too. And one thing about Gambino too, he was all about us. Like, he was all about promoting his players to us. And I say us as the media. Like, he was so great. Anybody you need, anytime you need something, let me know. We'll get it taken care of. So, Todd, hope you're listening. That's the way we want you here. I'm totally kidding. Just had to throw that out there. Yeah, I don't want to put the pressure on him yet.
No. All right. So that covers coaching changes. Very few, right? Just the two, one of which it's an assistant promoted. The transfer portal. Another thing that, since you and I last did one of these, it's gone a little bit bananas. And I think it's in favor of the ACC because the list is too long to count. But I'll put it this way. The ACC, we know, is such a good baseball conference that you lose a lot of guys to the draft every year. Matter of fact, 54 of them this past summer.
54? Oh my gosh.
54 ACC players got drafted. So there's a lot of voids to fill for these teams. As you can imagine, a guy who gets drafted has a pretty significant role on his team. Therefore, you're not always just like bumping up young guys within the program to do that. The transfer portal allows you to pull some guys in. I think I know the answer to this. Is there one that like caught your eye and you're most excited about, one transfer into the ACC?
Yeah, Chase Burns from Tennessee. And like, I've always liked this kid. I was never a fan of Tennessee. Let me just throw that out there. but anytime Chase Burns was on the mound, it was scary. Like, it was scary watching him because he could be so dominant, and saw it as a freshman, he was a kind of a starter and he would relieve sometimes. And the stuff is so electric. I mean, at times it's unhittable. And then, last year he struggled a little bit in the rotation and they put him into the bullpen and he was untouchable, constantly hitting 100 and with movement, and his secondary pitch, his breaking ball was disgusting. So he just became this lights out closer I don't know. I say closer, but he was throwing multiple innings at the end of the game. So whatever you want to call it.
Leverage guy.
Yeah, that we'll call it that. And to see that he was transferring to Wake Forest, I was like, oh my gosh. Like Wake Forest already has the best pitching. Of course, they lost Rhett Lauder, but they still have the pitching lab. They still have a very good team, and they're adding Chase Burns. This is ridiculous. Like, I mean, I cannot wait. I can't wait to see if they're going to start him or relieve him. Whatever they decide to do, that pitching lab is going to make him better, believe it or not, than what he was at Tennessee. I can't wait.
Yeah. To me, that signaled a couple of things. One is a bit more anecdotal. On the surface, you see, this dude is transferring from the SEC school of a couple of years ago, to the school in the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
We have not seen a lot of the SEC to ACC transfers. It's been a lot of the other way around.
Yeah,
that potentially is a sign of things to come, a sign of progress for the ACC in terms of jockeying for position atop college baseball with the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that news. The second thing is, you mentioned his freshman season when he was so electric and sort of stormed onto the scene for Tennessee. That summer after that season, he pitched for the collegiate national team. So I got to see him
saw a lot of them.
That's the potential with his stuff is just limitless. And if Wake Forest can do even a fraction with him of what they've done with others in terms of optimizing their ability and getting the most out of what they've got, man, he's going to be good. He's like, and like you're saying, you couple that with that pitching staff coming back, the pieces that they have returning, including Josh Hartle, who I think by the time he was a little worn down by the end of the season.
Yeah.
By the time he gets, they've taken the off season to get him right. I mean, he might be the best pitcher in the country come February. So Wake Forest was not a flash in the pan. Like they're here, and I am very intrigued to see what they do with the group that they've got.
Yeah, they're definitely weren't a one-hit wonder. Like, no. It wasn't just one and done. Yeah. You know what? Before you get to your next guy, because I already know who that's going to be.
We've got a type. I'll just say that you and we both have a type, right?
Yeah, totally. I wonder why. So Tennessee, they had 13 players transfer, like 13 players leave to go to new schools. What? Like, I guess it can't be just NIL. Like, because some of these other schools that the Tennessee players left to aren't schools that the NIL is big. Like, maybe it's just because they're young and they know they're not getting playing time. Like, how do you just have so many players leave?
Yeah, I'm always interested, and Tony V fits this description. Coaches who sort of come onto the scene out of nowhere, not out of nowhere, but Tennessee rocketed to the top of the SEC a couple years ago and became that it team when it had been Arkansas the year before. It's more often than not an LSU. It's always interesting to see not how a coach plateaus, but once a coach gets to the level of high regard, what changes?
Yeah.
I think we're in for some observations along those lines in the coming years when it comes to Jay Johnson at LSU, especially with the brash nature with which he has said and executed, I'm using the transfer portal. This is transfer university, basically.
Yeah.
I wonder if there was an element of Tony V having that kind of success at Tennessee, reaching #1 spot in the country, having that team that went viral with several moments. You remember the Grand Slam by Drew Gilbert that they had the sort of cinematic video for, and the bat flips and his tirades and getting tossed from games.
Yeah.
That obviously can appeal to younger players in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And he probably was as popular as a coach as he had ever been. And I don't mean that in the sense that like, oh, everybody loves Tony B. I mean it in a sense from a recruiting angle.
Yeah.
How do you adjust to that other than, tell everybody they've got a chance to play?
Yeah.
Because they're that good. They legitimately are that good. But the fact is, you've only got so many spots.
Over recruiting.
Right. That's what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
I wonder how much, and I don't even know that it's a bad thing necessarily for a program to do this, because it's a fine line, right? You kind of have to.
Well, I think that was the MO back in the day. You over recruit and then you just kind of weed them out,
Yeah. So again, just because he probably had the means to recruit more than he ever has over the past couple of years, I wonder if there's an adjustment being made within that program.
Yeah.
For that.
Makes sense.
Look, I mean, it's something that Wake Forest might have to deal with now after last season. It's sort of the cycle, the life cycle of a program that has some success. So it'll be interesting. Tom Walter's a very cerebral guy who I'm sure would have some very poignant things to say about that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's expecting some things along those lines. So yeah, I wonder if that's it, because like, again, if we were to talk to Walter about it, it's not like Wake Forest didn't have their version of an exodus. They had some players transfer out.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think it's partially sort of a sign of the times. B, it's when you have success, I think just by nature of having that success, you put yourself into a position where you over recruit.
Well, I can tell you,
better or worse.
Yeah. Well, some Wake Forest players left because of probably the guy that you say is your biggest name coming in, right?
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on with that. It's a good transition. You know me well. You know that I like myself a versatile, toolsy infielder, and this is a guy I got to see over the summer with the collegiate national team. Wake Forest, in addition to Chase Burns on the pitching side, man, they got a good one in the infield. A guy by the name of Seaver King, who prior to joining Wake Forest played collegiately at Division II Wingate. It's Wingate, but I'm from North Carolina, so I know. I've been around people enough to be corrected. It's Wingate. You just got
what? Wait, what?
It's Wingate, but people call it Wingate.
Wait, so it's the real name is Wingate, but North Carolinians,
North Carolinians. There you go.
North Carolinians say
you're learning multiple things here. This is good.
I know. This is great. Speech 101. They say Wingate.
Wingate. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
I love
Seaver. A player who hit 400 at Wingate for a very, very good Division II program in the Bulldogs. He came and was the only non-D1 guy with the collegiate national team and just made his mark right away. It became clear right away that, this dude might be the best player on the field. He played on a collegiate national team with Jack Caglione of Florida, with Charlie Condon of Georgia, Jace LaViolette of Texas A&M.
And he played multiple positions, you said, right?
Yeah, and he shined at second, at short, at third. I mean, wherever they want to put him, they're going to have the ability to do that. And he's a great hitter. It's a very balanced approach at the plate. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of gap to gap stuff. He's quick. So,
he's got some pop or.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So he'll wear out that Wake Forest home stadium, huh?
I think he's going to find some success there. I think that might inflate his power numbers a little bit more than what is accurate with him, but he's got the pop. Like he's again, I think he's much more of sort of a line drives, doubles, occasional triple in the gap type hitter. He's, I mean, obviously a for average guy. He hit over 400.
Yeah, that's pretty legit.
He's legit. And it's a name that, obviously, if you follow this stuff, and I know the guys at D1 have sort of circled him since his time with Team USA as a high impact transfer. But prior to that, he kind of had come out of nowhere. So if you're a little bit more of a layback during the off season, more casual ACC baseball fan, it's probably a name you haven't heard. Just get used to hearing it. Seaver King. Yeah. He's going to be big. He's going to be big for Wake Forest. I also, you know what, with transfers in mind, I'll mention one more because of my proximity where I'm based in North Carolina. I've also called a number of East Carolina games over the years. Alec Makarevich is a switch hitting third baseman that transferred from the Pirates. He's now a member of the NC State Wolfpack. Oh, really? It's a great fit to fill that void that's going to be left by Gino Groover, who got drafted, obviously. I think that's a close second on transfers that really, really caught my eye this summer. Nice. So we got a lot to look forward to, man. We got a ways before then, but well, look, we're creeping up on an hour, so let's do this. I feel like we, at the very least, owe the people of Listenerland for waiting so long for a new edition of the show. At the very least, we owe them a game of Hall of Name, right? Yeah. Yes, for sure. I mean, you owe me that, and I owe you that. We owe each other that. We owe each other that. I like that. That's a team-centric way of looking at it. I appreciate that. All right, so in case you are new to us, Hall of Name is the part of the show where we let Danny, the former big league closer, close every show by giving us a small look into his experiences as both a college and professional pitcher. Here's how it goes. I pick a former teammate of Danny's. I've got a list of them. And this is at any level. So it could have been a college teammate at Miami, in the professional ranks with Cleveland, Cincinnati, or the New York Mets. I've been promising a sort of a composite list of minor league teammates, which is a little bit harder to assemble. That's tough, but I'm going to work on that as well. Okay. So anyways, like, we've gone through Ken Griffey Jr., if you want to go back at previous episodes and hear some of these stories. Ken Griffey Jr. is a good one. That was the first one that we knocked out. Yeah. Our friend Paul Shuey was a fun one to me. Pedro Martinez in the short time that you guys were teammates when you were both New York Mets. That's a fun one to me. We did Alex Cora, I think. Alex Cora. And Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone, Barry Larkin, Sean Casey. So that's actually a really good one. You and Sean Casey's a really good story. Yeah. So anyways, if you want to go back into the archives, those are sort of evergreen. We'll of course be talking about whatever was going on in the ACC at the time, but you can just skip back to the end of the episode and hear Danny talk about his former nonsense. The nonsense, because, and again, this is how it goes. I pick a former teammate, I say the name, and Danny has to tell us the first story, interaction, anecdote, I don't know, awkward conversation. We even did Benito Santiago too, by the way. So yeah. Anyways, you should go listen to that one. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Benito is a good one as well. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I some of these I've been really bad over the span of us doing this show about marking off guys from the list when I name them. So I'm having a hard time remembering exactly who I've named and exactly who I haven't. However, I should just start writing them down for you. I got a couple. I'm gonna backtrack it. We're gonna formalize this. All right, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
All right.
So I'm gonna choose a couple. Man, you were with Cleveland for what, like a season and a half in the bigs?
Yeah. So part of 96, part of 97, and then I finished my career with them part of 06.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated. Like some of the early in your career, some of the guys that they had on those teams that were maybe toward the ends of their careers.
Yeah.
Those teams fascinate me a little bit. And I believe I've asked you about Oral Hershiser before.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We did Oral.
So we're not going to do him, but I've got a couple of names. So we'll do a twofer here, both from your time with Cleveland.
All right.
The first is one of the few Hall of Famers on the list that we have not mentioned as part of Hall of Name.
I know it.
Eddie Murray.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. Yeah. So Eddie Murray, so the first time I ever met him walking into the clubhouse, he walks up to me and I go to introduce myself and he's got his hand, and Eddie Murray is a giant. I don't know how tall he's listed as, but he's a huge man. And of course, growing up, watching him play, like this dude is like scary. Like I don't want to like be on his bad side. Right. So I walk in the training room to introduce myself, and he's got his hands up like this, and they're covered in wax. So like, you know, the little wax paraffin machine. I don't know if you've ever seen that. You dip your hands into the wax and then you pull them out, and it's covered with wax, and you let it sit there for a little bit and it softens your hands. Well, I know it's crazy that we had one of these in the clubhouse, but a lot of times he didn't use batting gloves to hit with. So he would do it because he was like trying to soften.
He didn't do the Moises Alou urinate on your hands route.
No. He I mean, I never saw that. Yeah, if that works for you, that's great. But I never saw him do that. But that's how I met him. He had they were white with wax all over him, and he's like, "Yeah, nice to meet you." And he's so soft spoken, Daron. And I'm like, "This is Eddie Murray, who has wax all over his hands, and he's speaking softly to me." I'm like, "This is not the Eddie Murray that I, grew up watching."
He's just having spa day. You just caught him on
spa day. Yeah. But like, that's just who he was. Like, he was so soft spoken to me. He was so like a gentle giant. He was so kind. And my first big league win with Cleveland, I came in to pitch, and it was a tie game in the ninth inning, and I had a scoreless ninth. So he comes up and hits a walk-off homer off Eddie Guardado with Minnesota. So my first big league win is an Eddie Murray walk-off homer. So that's my like kind of piece together with him. But I didn't have any interactions with him off the field, obviously, because I kind of kept to myself as a rookie. But like just him being such a gentle giant was so like peaceful to me, knowing that like this is an icon to many people, and he was nice to me, And then we didn't play together for very long because we ended up trading him to Baltimore. But he was getting close to hitting number 500, and I thought it would have been so cool to be there for 500. And I got my first win because he hit a walk-off, but we traded him and he hit 500 with Baltimore. So, but just a really nice guy, dude.
I'm so upset that I hadn't asked about Eddie Murray sooner, because like there's so much there. The hands covered in wax when you meet him.
Yeah.
But your first big league win came via an Eddie Murray walk-off home run.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Incredible. Oh, yeah. And he actually signed a ball for my mom. Like, cause my mom didn't know many of the players on the team, but she knew who Eddie Murray was, and he signed it for her. Yeah. It was really cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got one more. This would have been someone who you would have been in the bullpen with. And let's just say I have utilized him a lot in recent weeks as an answer on my immaculate grid.
Joe Table?
Yeah. Joe Table, Jose Mesa.
Yeah. Is that who you're going with?
Yeah.
So he was my man. Like, he took me under his wing. he was such a good dude, and he's a giant too, by the way. He's humongous. And the big, he had the Fu Manchu at the time. Yep. Like sometimes it would connect, but most of the time he's just right here, and so mean and intimidating looking, but he was so nice. And he always made fun of me because I was so little. Like I was so much shorter than him and everybody else. Now he couldn't
kind of like Jordan Cornette did me when we first met face to face at the ACC Baseball Championship. Cornette's just like, well, I don't know. He's tall, so like everybody's small to him. I feel like all of you guys sort of fueled the fire, and you were like, "Man, you're shorter than I thought you'd be," which is fine. I get it a lot, but to Cornette especially, man, I was an ant.
Well, he said it to me first. Daron is a lot shorter than I thought. I said, "Well, you're like 7'10", so everybody's shorter." But yeah, so Jose, he gave me this nickname, and in Spanish it's enano, but in English he couldn't get away with it these days. But my nickname was midget because yes. So he started calling me that in English, and then he would mix in the Spanish with it, and we just ran with it. That was my nickname for him. Like I don't even know if he knows my real name. He probably does because, but he took me under his wing. He kind of helped me out and just kind of, showed me the ropes of being in the bullpen. And because I'd been in the bullpen. I'd been a reliever since college, all into minor leagues. But just the way that he went about preparing for the ninth inning and stuff. But he was so kind, dude. Like that's what amazed me by a lot of these players on that team, that like ginormous dudes. And you may use some of these guys later, but like Jim Thome was a huge man. Yeah. Manny Ramirez was huge. Sandy Alomar. But these guys were like so nice. There was really only one dirtbag that was just, I didn't like. We'll get into that another time. But Jose,
I'm going to try my damnedest to figure out who it was.
You'll never figure it out. Unless I tell you what position. But yeah, so Joe Table was so great, man. He was the coolest. Gave me a red glove that said Jose Mesa on it. Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty sweet.
That's good.
Yeah.
Man, it is. Hall of Name is my favorite part of the show because of your interactions with just like these. You're talking about them being physical giants. I mean, they are proverbial giants in the game too. Like
right.
The good naturedness of your interactions with a lot of these guys is encouraging. It makes me feel good about humanity. So
it does, right? Like, I mean, Eddie Murray, this is a guy that is like, he looks so intimidating, and he looks like he does not want to be your friend. Don't talk to me. I'm gonna pummel you. That's the look that he has. But he's so soft-spoken, man. Just such a nice dude. Even he became a hitting coach. Sorry, I didn't mean to go back to that, but
yeah, that's fine.
He became a hitting coach when I got traded to Cincinnati. Can't remember who he was a hitting coach for. Maybe it was Cleveland. Anyway, so I saw him in the batting cages during spring training during a game, and he just sat there and talked to me like we were best buddies. Like, it was so cool, man. And I felt like I was big time because everybody saw me talking to Eddie Murray.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Awesome edition of Hall of Name. Yeah. That is part of every episode. Again, in case you're new to us, to ACC Baseball Etc. I'll piggyback on that just to say that we're happy to have you. Happy again to be part of the D1Baseball Network. Our thanks to them for including us. Our thanks to Pitch Logic, the title sponsor, the presenting sponsor of ACC Baseball Etc. As we close out the show, reminders, we are on social media, Twitter and Instagram at ACC BSB ETC on each of those. Rate and review if you are a listener to this podcast. Of course, if you're watching, you see us on YouTube, you know how that works as well. Give us the thumbs up, that sort of thing. Follow D1 Baseball on YouTube if you haven't done that already. We are on basically any audio platform you could want us on: Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever. And as a matter of fact, the new partnership with D1 Baseball now means we are also on Pandora, Stitcher, as well as the SiriusXM app. So I don't use those for listening, but if you do, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know their system for giving 5-star ratings or whatever on those, but by any means, if they've got it, use it, pump us up. 5 stars, like I said.
Pass the
leave
word.
a comment that is appropriate for air, and we will at some point read it on the show, especially if it's particularly funny or insightful. So
that's right.
By all means, hit us up on social media. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it. Very, very excited about what's to come with D1 Baseball. By the way, we're going to do probably an episode or 2 a month until the season gets rolling in February, and then we are back at it on we are hitting the ground running with weekly episodes with Danny and me whenever, and by then, we've got a few more insights because we will be calling and on TV talking about,
and we'll have special guests
and the games and guests. We're going to work in some guests here in the off season too. We mentioned Todd Interdonato. Anytime you get a new head coach in the conference, it feels like hey, it's pretty important to get to know this person. Yeah. So we'll see what we can do on that as well. But
and JD,
of course, we'll have on for the Miami side of the new head coaches. Well, maybe some fall ball reports. I know, in my backyard, UNC's playing a couple of fall games that I'll probably have a chance to pop in on. So we'll do all kinds of stuff. It'll be fun. Yeah. Again, once or twice per month in the off season. Then once the season gets started, we're going to hit you weekly here on ACC Baseball Etc. Danny, you got anything else? We good?
We're good, man. I'm just glad we're up and running again. We're back.
Same. We're back. That's
right.
Danny's learning how to ice skate. We got a lot of things happening.
I'm going here in about an hour. That's right.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. For Danny Graves, I'm Daron Vaught. This has been ACC Baseball Etc. We'll catch you next time.